Hello, my name is Mohammed Jamdali, and today I'll be talking about one of the most prominent forces in today's main fluid mechanics principle, which is buoyancy. Buoyancy is essentially the net upward force exerted on an object that is wholly or partly immersed in a fluid. Take this glass of water as an example. When an object is dropped inside a fluid, the fluid pressure increases with depth. So you might be asking yourself, why does fluid pressure increase with depth? If you drop a ball full of air on water, you will see that it floats. That's because the water is applying an upward force on the ball. Let's say if you push the ball inside the water, you'd notice the water is also exerting an upward force on your hand. And if you release the ball, you'll see that it'll come up to the surface on its own. If you push the ball deeper inside the water, you'll feel more force against your hand, and when you release the ball, it'll come up even faster than it did in the previous case. This is because the upward force increases as it's pushed deeper into the fluid, and that's because the pressure also increases as we go deeper into the fluid. Now, same thing goes for our stone example. For sinking object, such as the stone that I have here, the force exerted upwards on the stone due to that pressure will be more than the force exerted downwards due to that pressure. And that net upward force exerted on an object submerged in fluids is called the buoyant force. For example, let's say you're holding something relatively heavy in your hand, and if you try to hold that object within a container full of water, you'll notice it'll feel lighter. This is because there is a net upward force that is being exerted on that object, which is the buoyant force. Now, it also depends on the density of an object. Let's not forget about that. Let's say we take 2 cans of Coke, where one can has been opened and the other remains closed. Evidently, the one that's closed will sink because it has a lot of mass, so it's denser. On the other hand, the one that's opened will float because it's hollow or full of air, meaning it's not as dense. Let's take a look. As you can see, our initial assumptions were correct. The open can floated, and the one that was closed sunk. But the reason part of that closed can stuck out is because it still had some air inside it. But at the end of the day, it's still denser than the open can, hence why majority of it was submerged in the water. So even though both are the same size, the average density relative to the density of the fluid of the open can is smaller than that of the closed can. This is where Archimedes' principle comes in. If the object is heavier than the amount of water it displaces, the object will sink, like the can that's closed. And if the object is lighter than the amount of water it displaces, the object will float, like the can that's opened. Thus, we can say that the buoyancy force experienced by an object is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. One of the main real-life examples of buoyancy is a boat or a ship. Even though the ship is very heavy, it's also very large, and most of the ship is also hollow, so it's not as dense as you think. Due to this fact, similar to the open can example, the ship is actually lighter than the water it's being displaced, thereby causing it to float. Now, I want you to think about the next time you're swimming and attempting to float. Think about how buoyancy is helping you achieve that state of keeping you afloat. Thanks for watching.